Fraser narrowed his eyes. You sure have a way with words. Xavier fell silent. Was Fraser actually thinking about cutting his tongue out? Get lost, before I make sure you don't have a tongue to run anymore. All right, he'd hit a nerve. If Fraser wanted him gone, he'd take the hint. Except Xavier didn't just leave. He took off. Moments later, a private jet soared into the sky. Summer had been put through the wringer for hours. By the time the drug wore off, all that remained was an aching exhaustion that made her feel like her entire body had been taken apart and put back together. Then, suddenly, the deafening roar of a plane engine shook the villa. She stirred, groggy, slowly opening her eyes. As she sat up, the silk blanket slipped from her body, revealing skin covered in scattered, lingering traces of passion. The memories from hours ago rushed back. She had slept with Fraser. And worse, she had been the one to initiate it. Her face burned. She had no idea how to even process what had happened. Then, the bedroom door creaked open. On instinct, Summer immediately lay back down, yanking the blanket over herself, gripping the edges tightly. The sound of steady, unhurried footsteps approached the bed. She held her breath, lashes quivering, toes curling. Even with her eyes shut, she could feel the intensity of Fraser's gaze sweeping over her body. Just when she thought she might suffocate from the tension. You've already slept with me, Miss Stewart. Don't tell me you're planning to pretend it never happened. His lazy, deep voice echoed through the room. Summer's heart pounded. Slowly, carefully, she opened her bright, clear eyes. Fraser stood beside the bed, tall and broad-shouldered, arms crossed. His dark gaze was calm but piercing. This was the first time Summer had looked at him this closely, this clearly. He wore a patterned shirt, the top few buttons undone, exposing the chiseled line of his collarbone. His posture was relaxed, yet carried an undeniable intensity. His sharp, sculpted features were striking, deep-set eyes, a straight, defined nose. Every angle was as if carved by the hands of a master. Trevor had always had a cold, detached air about him. Fraser, the corners of his eyes had a sharp, almost mischievous tilt. When he smiled, there was a trace of danger subtle but undeniable. Summer tightened her grip on the blanket and hesitated. Fraser, I didn't mean to. I was drugged, that's the only reason She trailed off, flustered. What do I owe you? She never expected to sleep with the Havenbrook's boss man. Even she was at a loss for words. Fraser arched a brow at her. Her long, wavy hair cascaded around her delicate face, her clear eyes carrying a trace of distress. She was undeniably beautiful, her soft, fair skin covered in the marks he had left behind. Fraser's gaze darkened. He leaned back slightly, his voice slow and amused. And how exactly do you plan to compensate me? Summer hesitated. I could buy you dinner. Fraser scoffed. Do I look like I need you to buy me food? Right, that was stupid. Money. The Graham family was Havenbrook's wealthiest tens of billions in assets. He wouldn't even glance at her pathetic bank account. Summer looked up hesitantly. Then, could you give me a hint? This was her first time sleeping with someone. What was she supposed to do afterward? If it had been anyone else, she would felt down and extremely regretful. But this was Fraser Graham. And she had been the one who threw herself at him. Technically, wasn't she the one who got the better end of the deal? Fraser suddenly leaned in, tilting her chin up with his fingers. Their gazes locked. His lips curved slightly. Summer, I satisfied you, as compensation. He paused, voice dark and teasing. Now it's your turn to satisfy me. Summer's mind went blank. Under the effects of the drug, she had been bold, reckless, completely unrestrained. But now, she was sober, and she absolutely could not handle this. But Fraser wasn't giving her time to think. His arms slid around her waist, effortlessly pulling her onto his lap. He didn't hesitate, lowering his head, his lips crashing down on hers. His desire was written in his breath, his touch, his gaze. Her thin silk robe had already been loose, as it slipped further down her shoulder, exposing delicate, fair skin. Fraser's lips trailed over her delicate brows, her soft red lips, and her fair cheeks. Finally, he took her petite earlobe between his teeth, licking and teasing it with slow, deliberate pressure. Fraser's breath was hot against her ear, sending a shiver through her body. Summer's breath hitched, and an involuntary sound slipped past her lips, soft, sweet, nothing like her usual voice. She hadn't even been drinking, yet the lingering taste of alcohol on Fraser's lips, mixed with the clean, masculine scent of his shower gel, was intoxicating. For a moment, she lost herself in it. Then a memory surfaced. Trevor's last birthday. She had spent weeks preparing. She had baked him a chocolate cake from scratch. And that night, she had planned to give him something even more precious herself. She had picked out a stunning black slip dress, low-cut and dangerously short. She had waited. But as always, Peyton had fallen ill. And just as expected, Trevor never showed up. She had spent the entire night alone, staring at that carefully made cake, tears falling onto the table. That dress, meant to be worn for him, became nothing more than a cruel joke. She had thrown it into the back of her closet, never wanting to see it again. The thought made her chest ache. For how foolishly, desperately she had loved him. Suddenly, a sharp sting on her earlobe jolted her back to reality. Her eyes flew open. Fraser's lips left her ear as he propped himself up, hovering over her. His deep gaze locked onto hers. Distracted. That single word sent a chill down her spine. She had been thinking about Trevor. While she was with Fraser. Any man would be furious if he knew. Fraser's voice was unreadable. "Ms. Stewart, it seems I'm not quite captivating enough to keep you focused." Summer's heart clenched in panic. She had heard the rumors. Fraser Graham, Havenbrook's bossman. Cold, ruthless, and utterly unforgiving. She had no doubt that if she angered him, he wouldn't let it slide. Her instinct kicked in. I didn't mean to." Fraser's lips curled slightly. His smirk was almost lazy, but something about it felt dangerous. "That's all right." Summer exhaled, relieved. For now. Then, flipping her over, he pressed her against him, his voice low and commanding against her ear. "This time, you take the lead." Summer was so startled, her voice came out in a stammer. "What?" Her face wasn't just red, it was scorching. A few hours ago, she barely had any experience, and now this. How was she supposed to do this? Could she at least watch something first to make up for her 23 years of limited knowledge? Fraser watched as the blush on Summer's face spread down her neck, blooming across her entire body like a slow-burning fire. Her skin was tinted with layers of pink, her dark, bright eyes flickering between embarrassment and frustration, but she didn't dare lash out. Something about this soft, flustered little woman amused him. Fraser's narrow eyes lifted slightly. His gaze locked onto her lips, red, plump, slightly swollen. His dark pupils turned even deeper. "Summer," Fraser's voice was low, magnetic, dripping with desire. "Kiss me." Summer felt his scorching gaze on her, making her mouth dry and her body burn all over. Her mind kept echoing his words, "Kiss me." And in that moment, she suddenly understood. If Trevor had been willing to abandon her for Peyton, why should she hold herself back? Why should she stay loyal to Trevor? And the man in front of her, Fraser Graham, was nothing short of perfect. Handsome, powerful, with a flawlessly sculpted body and strong genes. Countless wealthy women in Havenbrook would kill to get close to him. Most importantly, he wasn't any worse than Trevor. Sleeping with him wasn't a loss, it was an upgrade. Taking a deep breath, Summer lowered her head and mimicked the way he had kissed her, pressing her lips against his. His lips were thin, slightly cool, carrying a faint and distinctive scent. As Summer's warm breath brushed against him, Fraser's breathing grew heavier. She kissed along his jaw, then down to his Adam's apple, trailing soft licks before slowly moving downward to his collarbone. Fraser's breath hitched, his Adam's apple bobbing in his throat, the sound of his deep breaths cutting through the silent night. Hearing it sent a shiver through Summer, a tingling heat spreading through her veins. She trembled slightly, realizing that kissing him made her own heartbeat race uncontrollably. Then, in one swift movement, Fraser flipped them over, pinning her wrists above her head, trapping her beneath him once again. His rough voice brushed against her lips. "You little tease, you learn fast." And with that, he kissed her again. Summer felt like her entire body was on fire. She wanted to escape, but with her hands pinned and her body caged beneath him, she had nowhere to run. She let out a soft whimper, not knowing if the drug still had lingering effects or if she simply wanted more. At this moment, she wasn't thinking about anything else. The heat in the room thickened, melding with the soft glow of the lights. Shadows intertwined. The night went on. After the wedding, Trevor took Peyton back to Havenbrook Hospital to rest. Peyton's VIP suite was on the top floor, with a full year's medical expenses paid up front by Trevor. Her attending physician, Josh, gave her a sedative and stepped out to speak with Trevor. Peyton has been in a stable mood lately, and her heart condition is holding steady. If this continues, she might even extend her life expectancy. Trevor gave a slight nod. Josh hesitated as if wanting to say more, but, seeing Trevor's exhaustion, decided against it and left. Trevor pushed open the hospital room door and walked inside. Peyton wasn't wearing her usual hospital gown. Instead, she sat on the bed in a black lace dress, different from her usual innocent look. Tonight, there was a hint of seduction. Her eyes lit up when she saw him. Trevor had changed out of his wedding suit, but he was still dressed in crisp white. The dim hospital hallway lights cast a soft glow on his 6'1" frame. His sharp features were slightly blurred by the lighting, giving him an almost gentle air. If she had never left Havenbrook 5 years ago, if she had never left Trevor, there wouldn't be a place for Summer in his life now. Thinking of this, Peyton clenched her jaw. But it didn't matter. She knew she still held an irreplaceable place in Trevor's heart. Today's wedding was proof of that. And tonight, she had no intention of letting Trevor leave. Ever since she came back, Trevor had spoiled and indulged her. But he had never crossed the final line. That distance between them made her uneasy. Summer was the problem, the one standing in her way. Peyton stretched out a pale, delicate hand toward the man standing at the door. "Trevor, will you stay with me tonight?" Trevor's dark eyes were unreadable as he stepped forward, pulling the blanket over her. "The doctor said you need rest. I'll stay until you fall asleep." A flicker of disappointment flashed in Peyton's eyes.